Everyone in the city knew Armand Singh. He was one of the richest men in the country. People called him the Golden King, because whatever he touched turned into success. He owned businesses, hotels, and luxury cars. His face was on magazine covers. But behind the expensive suits and grand lifestyle, there was a truth only he knew. He was deeply broken inside. Armand had everything, except peace. Years ago, Armand had a loving wife named Alina. Their marriage looked perfect from the outside, but behind closed doors, things were falling apart. Armand had a secret he hid from the world. He could not become a father. After many hospital visits, doctors confirmed that he was infertile. At first, Alina stayed strong with him, but slowly, her love changed. She became cold, distant, and angry. One day she left. No goodbye, no final words, just a letter saying, "I want a family, I want a child, and you can't give me that." That one sentence stayed in Armand's heart like a knife. Since then, Armand stopped believing in love. He stopped attending parties, stopped laughing, and started living alone in his big, empty mansion. He had money, fame, and success, but none of it could heal the hole in his heart. To hide his pain, Armand started helping others. He would drive his car at night looking for people in need. He gave money to the poor, paid hospital bills for strangers, and donated to orphanages, all without showing his name. He didn't want praise. He just wanted to feel something again. One rainy night, everything changed. Armand was driving through a quiet road. It was dark, and the rain was falling heavily. His car's headlights cut through the storm, and that's when he saw something unusual. On the side of the road, under a broken streetlight, a girl was sitting in the mud holding a sick child in her arms. She was trying to cover the child with her scarf, shivering in the cold. Her clothes were wet, her hands were shaking, but her eyes showed no fear, only love and worry for the child. Armand stopped the car immediately and stepped out with an umbrella. He rushed to her side. "Do you need help?" he asked. The girl looked up. Her eyes met his. For a moment, time froze. There was something familiar about her face. He didn't know why, but his heart felt a strange pull. "My brother is very sick," the girl said softly. "I was trying to take him to the clinic, but I have no money. And it's too far." Armand didn't ask any more questions. He gently helped them into the car. The girl was hesitant but finally agreed. They drove to the nearest hospital. Armand paid the doctor, bought medicines, and waited outside the emergency room. He didn't even know her name. After some time, the doctor came out and said, "The child will be fine. He had a high fever, but you brought him just in time." Armand smiled for the first time in weeks. He looked at the girl, who was wiping tears from her eyes. "Thank you," she whispered. "I don't know how to repay you." Armand shook his head. "No need. I'm just glad I was there." She nodded and stood up to leave. But before going, she turned and said, "My name is Meher." That name echoed in his mind as he watched her disappear into the rain. Meher. Why did it sound so familiar? That night, Armand couldn't sleep. He kept thinking about the girl. There was something about her, her voice, her eyes, her courage, that felt like a forgotten memory. He opened an old photo album, flipping through pictures of his past. One photo stopped his hand, a blurry image of his younger brother standing with a girl near a school building. She was smiling shyly, holding a book. Her name was also Meher. Could it be the same girl? Or was it just a coincidence? Armand didn't know, but one thing was clear. For the first time in years, he felt something in his heart. Armand couldn't stop thinking about Meher, the girl who saved a sick child on a rainy night. The girl who reminded him of someone from his past. Her face, her name, everything felt too close to a memory he had buried long ago. But he didn't want to push it. Not yet. Instead, the next day, Armand asked his assistant to quietly find out where she lived. He didn't want Meher to feel uncomfortable, so he planned to help from a distance, just like he always did. It didn't take long to learn that Meher lived in a small rented room at the edge of the city, in an old building, with peeling paint and narrow stairs. She worked 2 part-time jobs, cleaning offices during the day and waiting tables at night. Whatever little she earned, she spent on food, medicine, and books for orphaned children who lived nearby. She wasn't related to any of the children, but she treated them like her own. Arman watched from his car as Meher returned from work one evening. Her face looked tired, but she still stopped to buy bread for the kids. They ran to her as if she were their mother. She laughed with them, hugged them, and gave them hope, even when she had none left for herself. This girl had nothing, yet gave everything. Arman felt something stir in his chest again, respect. Not pity, not sympathy, but real admiration. That night, he made a decision. He would help Meher without letting her know it was him. The next morning, a large box of food supplies arrived at Meher's door. The delivery man simply said, "Someone sent it for the kids." Meher was shocked. She asked around, but no one knew anything. Later, a kind doctor offered free checkups for the children at the nearby clinic. The rent collector said someone had paid 2 months in advance for her room. One good thing after another began to happen. Meher was confused but grateful. She looked up at the sky and whispered, "Thank you, whoever you are." Arman watched everything quietly from a distance. Days passed. One evening, he visited the orphanage where the children stayed during the day. He donated some money and offered to help improve the place, under a fake name. When he walked in, he saw Meher teaching the kids. She was reading a storybook with expressions full of life. Her smile, her voice, her eyes, all full of warmth. Arman stood at the door, silently watching. For a moment, he forgot who he was. He was just a man standing in front of something pure. After class, Meher finally saw him. She looked at him curiously. "Have we met before?" she asked, walking closer. Arman hesitated. "Yes, a few nights ago. I helped you get to the hospital." "Oh, you." Her eyes lit up. "I didn't get to thank you properly. You were like an angel that night," he smiled politely. "I was just in the right place at the right time." They talked for a while. Meher was polite but careful. She didn't talk much about herself. She seemed used to hiding pain behind her smile. When Arman asked where her parents were, she paused and simply said, "Gone. A long time ago." He didn't push, but something in her eyes told him. She had a story, a painful one. The next few days, Arman continued visiting the orphanage. Slowly, he started helping with small things, fixing broken chairs, arranging books, playing with the kids. Meher began to trust him, just a little. One evening, while packing toys in the storage room, Arman accidentally knocked over a box. A small old diary fell out. He picked it up. The cover was faded and the name written on it stopped his breath. Ayan. That was his younger brother's name. His hands trembled as he opened it. Inside were pages of memories. One page read, "Meher and I walked by the lake today. She looked beautiful with flowers in her hair. I want to tell her I love her, but I'm scared she'll leave." Arman couldn't believe it. This Meher, the same Meher, was the girl his brother had once loved. Memories came flooding back. He remembered the day his brother died in a car accident. After that, Meher had vanished. No one knew where she went. Was it really her? Why did she leave back then? And why was she now living like this, poor, alone, and hidden from the world? He looked out the window and saw her laughing with the kids. She looked happy. But something in her eyes said otherwise. She was hiding a secret. And Arman was going to find out what it was. The more Arman tried to understand Meher, the more questions filled his mind. Was it really the same Meher his younger brother Ayan had once loved? Why had she disappeared all those years ago? And, if it was her, why was she hiding her identity now? He couldn't ask her directly, not yet. He needed to be sure. And more than that, he didn't want to scare her away. Over the next few days, Arman started spending more time at the orphanage. Everyone there now called him Sir, but the kids called him Uncle Smile, because he smiled only when he was around them, or Meher. He helped with food supplies, school books, painting the walls, anything he could do to stay close and learn more. But he always kept his real identity hidden. Meher noticed his kindness. "You're different," she said one day while they cleaned the classroom together. "Different how?" Arman asked, smiling slightly. "You don't just give money and disappear, you stay, you care," she replied, her voice soft. Arman looked into her eyes. There was pain buried deep inside. He could see it, because he carried the same kind of pain. "Maybe I'm just trying to fix something inside me," he said quietly. Meher paused and looked away. "Aren't we all?" she whispered. That night, Arman sat in his room with the old diary of Ayan in his hands. Every page he read made him feel closer to the truth. Ayan had loved Meher deeply, but the last few pages were strange. The entries stopped suddenly, right before the accident. One sentence haunted Arman. "I told Meher everything. Now I can only pray she forgives me." Forgive him? For what? What had Ayan done? The next day, while playing with the children, one of the boys called Arman Papa by mistake. Everyone laughed, but Arman's heart skipped a beat. Meher froze. Her smile faded for a second before she quickly recovered. No, he's not a papa. He's Uncle Smile," she told the kids playfully. But Arman saw the sudden change in her face, the way her eyes darted away, the way her hand tightened around the child. Was that just a slip? Or was there something she wasn't telling him? Later that evening, Arman found a small photo frame hidden behind the orphanage cupboard. The glass was cracked, and the photo inside was faded. It was a picture of a young couple standing near a tree. It was Ayan. And Meher, Arman's heart pounded. He now had no doubt. This Meher was the same girl his brother had once loved. Why had she never come to his brother's funeral? Why had she cut all ties with the family? That night, Arman sat quietly outside the orphanage, watching Meher from a distance as she tucked the kids into bed. The wind blew gently through her hair, and she hummed an old lullaby. She looked like someone who had once lived a whole life and had lost everything. Suddenly, Arman remembered something. A few months before his brother's death, there had been a family argument. Ayan had begged their father to accept Meher, but their father had refused, calling her a poor girl not fit for their name. Ayan had been heartbroken. He had stopped coming home. Had Meher walked away because of that? Was that why she vanished? The next day, Arman decided to get closer, personally. He offered Meher a job at his charity foundation. "You already help children so much. Why not do it on a bigger scale?" he said. Meher hesitated. "I don't have a college degree," she said. "I don't care about degrees," he replied. "I care about hearts." For a moment she looked unsure, then she nodded. "All right, but only if I can still stay here with the kids." "Of course," Arman smiled. As they began working together, something started changing. They began sharing small laughs, working late into the evenings, talking about dreams and pain. But still, Meher avoided speaking about her past. One evening, while drinking tea, Arman asked gently, "Why do you always look sad when you're alone?" Meher looked down at her cup. "Because I once had something beautiful, and I lost it." "What was it?" he asked, barely whispering. She closed her eyes. "A life I was never allowed to live." Arman said nothing, but his heart already knew the answer. They were two broken souls, standing at the edge of something deeper. But behind Meher's gentle smile and quiet strength, a truth waited in the dark, one that could change everything. Arman had always believed that time healed all wounds, but ever since he met Meher again, he realized, some wounds don't fade. Some just wait in silence. It had been weeks since Meher started working at his foundation. Together, they helped dozens of orphan children, arranged food drives, and opened a small evening school. She was the heart of everything. Her kindness touched people. Her laughter gave life to lifeless rooms. But every time Arman looked into her eyes, he saw something hidden. a past she was still running from, and he couldn't keep pretending anymore. He needed the truth. One quiet evening, after most of the staff had gone home, Armand found Meher sitting alone on the rooftop. The sky was painted in soft orange and the city below was silent. He walked over and sat beside her. "You used to come here with him, didn't you?" he asked softly. Meher turned sharply. Her eyes widened. "With who?" He pulled something from his coat pocket, the old photo of Meher and Ayan near the tree. She froze. Her hands trembled as she took the photo. Her fingers brushed the edge like it was made of glass. "You knew," she whispered. "I had to be sure," Armand said quietly. "You loved him, didn't you?" Tears welled up in her eyes. "Yes," she said, her voice cracking. "With all my heart." The truth had finally begun to surface. She held the photo close to her chest and closed her eyes. "He was the only one who saw me. Not as poor, not as a burden, but as a person." Armand remained silent. He knew this was her moment. Meher looked at the sky and began to speak, her voice shaking but steady. "After your father refused to accept me, Ayan said we should run away. But I was scared. I didn't want to come between him and his family. So I disappeared. I thought he'd forget me." She paused. Armand's chest tightened, but he didn't. "He came looking for me, again and again, and finally, I agreed to meet him." She took a deep breath. "That was the night of the accident. He was coming to see me, to tell me he didn't care what anyone thought. He was going to fight for us." Tears slid down her cheeks, but he never made it. Armand felt a sharp pain in his chest. "I found out the next morning," Meher whispered. "I went to the hospital, but it was too late. I stood outside your mansion for hours. I wanted to say goodbye, but I had no right." Armand stared at her, stunned. "You were there?" She nodded. "I saw you carrying the ashes. I watched from behind the gate. I didn't want to bring more pain, so I walked away." For a long moment, they both sat in silence. Only the wind moved between them. "And after that?" Armand finally asked. "I tried to start over," she said. "But pain doesn't leave that easily. I ended up working, moving from place to place. Then I found the orphanage. These kids. They became my reason to live." Armand looked at her. This woman who had lived with so much sorrow and still kept giving love. But something still didn't add up. If you had nothing, and no one, why did you name one of the boys Ayan? He asked. Meher's eyes widened. She looked away quickly, then stood up. "I should go," she said. Armand stood too. "Meher, wait." She didn't turn around. "I know," he said softly. "He was your child, wasn't he?" Her body froze. "You were pregnant when he died." Silence. Then, slowly, Meher nodded. "I didn't know until weeks after he was gone," she whispered. "By then it was too late to tell anyone. I had no home, no support, so I raised him myself. I kept his name alive." Tears poured down her cheeks. "He's the only piece of Ayan I have." Armand stepped forward, gently placing his hand on her shoulder. "You should have told me." "I was afraid," she said. "Afraid you'd hate me or take him away or think I was lying." Armand shook his head. "I could never hate you. You gave me back something I thought I'd lost forever. My brother." He looked into her eyes. "And you gave this world a child born from love, not shame." Meher broke down. For the first time in years, she cried freely without fear. Armand stood beside her, silent but strong. A wall between them had broken. The past was no longer forgotten. It was now a bridge, connecting two hearts that had been broken by the same tragedy, and at the center of it all was a little boy named Ayan, who had no idea his father had died for love, and his uncle had just found hope again. Just when Armand thought the worst of his pain was behind him, life showed him that old storms never truly disappear. After Meher's heartbreaking confession, things between them changed. There was more understanding now. a fragile connection built on shared grief and quiet hope. They began working closely, planning new projects for the orphanage and helping children who had nowhere else to turn. For the first time in a long time, Armand felt something close to happiness. But deep down, he knew life could be unpredictable, and it was about to test them both. One rainy afternoon, Armand was in his office when his phone rang. The caller ID showed an unknown number. He hesitated but answered. "Mr. Singh?" a cold voice said. "I'm calling about your friend, Meher." Armand's heart skipped a beat. "What do you want?" he asked cautiously. The voice smiled through the phone. "Let's just say she has a past that might ruin everything you've built." Before Armand could reply, the line went dead. His mind raced. What past? He thought about Meher's story, her love for Ayan, her struggles, the secret she carried. Was someone trying to hurt her? Or worse, to use her past against them? That evening, Armand met Meher at the orphanage. She noticed his worried face. "What's wrong?" she asked. Armand took a deep breath. "Someone called me today. They said they know about your past, and that it could ruin everything." Meher's face turned pale. "I was afraid this would happen." "Why? What don't I know?" Armand asked, grabbing her hands. She looked away, pain shining in her eyes. "There's more," she said quietly. "After Ayan died, I was alone. The people who were supposed to help, they turned against me." Armand frowned. "Who?" Meher hesitated, then said, "Your father." Armand's heart sank. "I don't understand," he said. "After the accident, your father blamed me for everything," Meher explained. "He said I was a liar, that I ruined the family name. He even told the police I kidnapped your brother's child." Armand's hands clenched. "That's not true," he shouted. "You're not a criminal." "I know," Meher whispered. "But no one believed me. They took my son away." Armand's chest tightened with anger and sadness. "Where is he now?" he asked urgently. "I don't know," Meher said, tears streaming down her face. "I've been searching for him, but your father won't let me near." Armand felt powerless. His own family was breaking Meher's heart again. The next day, Armand decided to confront his father. At the grand family mansion, his father looked at him coldly. "You should stay away from her," he said harshly. "She's a troublemaker, bringing shame to this family." Armand stood tall. "She is the mother of my nephew, and she deserves respect," his father sneered. "You're blinded by emotions. This woman is dangerous." Armand's voice shook with anger. "No, you're the one causing pain." As he turned to leave, his phone buzzed. A message appeared. "Meet me tonight at the old warehouse, alone. Or you'll never see Meher or your son again." The message was unsigned. Armand's heart raced. He knew this was a trap, but he couldn't ignore it. That night, under the cold moonlight, Armand drove to the warehouse. The place was dark and silent. Shadows stretched across broken windows. Suddenly, a figure stepped out. It was Meher. But she looked scared, tired, like a different person. Before Armand could speak, a group of men appeared, blocking his way. One of them smiled cruelly. "Welcome, Mr. Singh, we've been waiting." Armand's mind flashed to the warning message. Was this the end of everything? But Meher stepped forward, her voice steady. "You can't scare us," she said. "Not now." Armand realized then, this was more than just family fights. It was a battle for love, truth, and survival. And neither of them was ready to give. Up the cold air inside the old warehouse felt heavy, almost suffocating. Armand stood face to face with the men blocking the exit. Their eyes were hard, but Meher's steady voice cut through the tension like a blade. "You can't scare us. Not now." One of the men, tall and cruel, stepped forward. "You don't know what you're up against, Armand. Your family's secrets run deep." Armand's heart pounded, but he kept his voice calm. "If you want to hurt Meher or the child, you'll have to go through me." Meher glanced at Armand, her eyes shining with silent courage. Despite everything, she still believed in hope. The leader sneered. "Hope? Hope won't save you from the truth. Suddenly, the warehouse lights flickered on. Boxes and crates cast, long shadows revealing piles of old documents, photos, and papers scattered on a table. Armand's curiosity mixed with fear. What secrets were hidden here? The man grabbed a photo from the table and showed it to Armand. It was a picture of Ayan, his younger brother, holding a small child. Armand's breath caught. "This is your nephew," the man said. "The one your father took from Meher." Armand's fists clenched. "Where is he?" The man smiled coldly. "That's what you want to know, isn't it? But your father doesn't want anyone to find out the truth." Meher stepped forward. "What truth?" The man threw a folder onto the table. Inside were letters, legal papers, and newspaper clippings. Armand and Meher bent down to look. One letter was from Armand's father to a government official, refusing custody of the child to Meher. Another paper revealed that the boy was secretly adopted by a wealthy family, a family who promised to keep him hidden. Armand's world shook. All this time, his father had hidden the child, his own grandson, from the world and from Meher. But why? The man spoke again. "Your father wanted to protect the family name. He thought Meher was a threat." Meher's voice trembled. "But he destroyed a child's life." Armand's anger boiled. "We need to find that boy. We need to bring him home." The man laughed bitterly. "Good luck. Your father controls everything. Police, lawyers, even the courts." Suddenly, the warehouse door crashed open. A figure appeared. Armand's father. His face was hard, eyes cold. "You shouldn't have come here," he said. Armand stepped forward, standing tall. "Why did you hide the child, father? Why did you take him away from Meher?" His father's face twisted with anger. "Because she was weak. Because she was poor. Because she didn't deserve him." Meher's tears fell silently. Armand's voice shook with pain and determination. "She loved him with all her heart. You destroyed your own family." The old man spat. "You're blinded by love. You will regret this." But Armand wasn't afraid. He looked at Meher, then at the scattered papers. "We will fight. For the boy. For our family. For truth." His father sneered and left, but Armand knew this battle was only beginning. As the door slammed shut, Armand took Meher's hand. "We will find him," he promised, "and we will bring him home." The battle had been long and painful. Armand and Meher faced many challenges, but they never gave up. After learning the truth about the child's secret adoption, they started their search. With the help of a few honest friends and lawyers who believed in justice, they gathered evidence against Armand's father. Days turned into weeks. The pain of the past haunted them, but the hope of reunion kept their spirits strong. Finally, one bright morning, the news came. The court had agreed to return the boy to Meher and Armand. The judge saw the truth behind the lies and corruption. When Meher held her son in her arms again, tears flowed freely. He was a little taller now, with curious eyes and a shy smile. Armand watched them with a full heart. For the first time in years, the family felt whole. They took the boy to the orphanage, where Meher worked. The children gathered around, cheering for the boy who had finally come home. Meher whispered softly, "Welcome back, Ayan." Armand smiled and said, "This is the start of a new life, a life full of love and hope." But the journey didn't just end there. Armand knew that true healing would take time, for him, for Meher, and for everyone affected. He decided to open a special center at the foundation, one for families like theirs, broken but hopeful. Together, Armand and Meher worked to change the world around them, proving that money cannot buy happiness, but love can heal the deepest wounds. One evening, as the sun set in warm colors, Armand stood beside Meher, watching their son play with the other children. He took her hand and whispered, "Thank you for never giving up." Meher smiled. "Thank you for believing in us." They didn't need to say more. Their past had been painful, but their future was bright. A new beginning.